Good morning, Vietnam! Welcome back to another session of DS for HS. Today we're going to talk about three methods to import CSV data into Python. Now, what this Jupyter Notebook is going to talk about is it's the first of a three-part series on how to import a CSV data file into Python. Now, CSV data files, and CSV stands for comma separated values, are common formats for exporting data from spreadsheets and websites. Many examples of this are online bank accounts that allow you to export your transaction data in CSV format. CSV format is very easy to export, and it's very clean data. So it's very easy to understand in a human perspective, but also very easy for a computer to understand. Now, for this reason, Python is going to provide us multiple methods for importing and manipulating data originating from CSV files. Now, in this first notebook out of our three-part series, we're going to explore three very important things. Number one is how to import a CSV file from an operating system into Python as just one big single string. So it's going to be a giant string. The second thing is convert the giant string into a list of strings, so just cut it up. And we do this by using the Python string.split method, and that's going to split the big string up into little strings and into a list. So make it a list of strings. We'll look at that in more detail later in this notebook. And then the third is to convert a list of Python strings into a list of strings under the Python string.split method a second time. So we're going to use the .split method a second time, and it's going to make a list of strings. I know that sounds complicated, but don't worry, guys. Stick with it, and you'll see it in action later in this notebook. Now, this notebook is going to show us and demonstrate how to import a CSV file into Python without importing anything additional or any additional Python modules. In the two follow-up notebooks after this, we are going to see how Python has an explicit CSV module to make the steps performed in this notebook unnecessary. And in the last notebook of the series, you will see how the Berkeley Data Science Library and Pandas Library have single command operations to import CSV files. Those two libraries make it very, very easy to import CSV files. Therefore, with each of the three notebooks in the three-part CSV series, importing CSV data into Python will get easier and easier. With this said, why are we performing the steps of this notebook on a CSV file? The answer is to gain a deeper understanding of the fundamentals of Python using only the Python built-in functions and method. As always, let's make this theory come to life with DS4HS hands-on learning. Like I said, guys, this notebook is always open, and your remote desktop is always open. So everything you see in this video, you have access to it 24/7. So you don't only have access to it during these classes or when you watch these videos. No. You have access to this whole system throughout this entire course and whenever you want. Now, let's start by reviewing the string of data we are importing into Python. By pressing Control-B, and it brings up the Jupyter Lab File Manager utility. Let's examine this data. It is located in the file heartrate_list_CSV demo. So let's do it. Control-B, boom, and then we have this utility sidebar, and it's in the file data. And what is it? What's the name of it? Heartrate list demo CSV. Right here, click on it. Bada bing, bada boom. So it's two columns, and 9 rows. Interesting, very interesting. Control-B again to get rid of the sidebar and to give us more space. Now let's click on the file name, and like it said, it's very easy to read, and you see it as a table of 9 rows and 2 columns. So that's exactly what we saw. Now let's do our patented, hands-on learning proof by Python methods. Now, let's examine the contents of the data from another perspective. Use the Linux cat command inside of our Jupyter Notebook. So right here we're doing cat, and we have the bang because it's a Linux command. And Linux is the operating system running underneath all this, running underneath the hood. And the bang right here is saying, hey, this command is not for Jupyter Notebooks, it's not for Python, it's not for IPython, it's for the operating system. So it takes us back to the operating system. So that little exclamation mark is kind of like teleporter teleporting us to the operating system. So cat lets us look inside of a file. It's an operating system command. It's a Linux command that takes us inside of this file, and it'll take us inside of the heartrate_list_demo.csv file. And this is the path to the file, but don't worry about it. And it shows us right here that yes, indeed, 2 columns and 9 rows. Now, let's take an even closer look at our file using a powerful Linux tool called octldump. Now, like I said, we have the exclamation here, the bang here, that tells us we want to run this in the operating system. And now what this OD does is it's short for octldump, and it allows us to see all characters in a file, including hidden characters. Now, a hidden character is like \n. Now, \n is the new line character. You wouldn't see it up here because it's hidden, but when you do have octldump, it shows us the hidden characters, and it tells us when to make a new line. So it's here, make a new line, and then you'll see it right here. See, after the 20, make a new line. After the 9, make a new line. It's just showing us where to make your new line. Now, the reason why we're introducing octldump and the hidden character /n is because Python string objects display /n as well. We don't want you to think that Python added the /n into the file. /n resides in the file at the operating system level as well. But for most cases, you won't see it because it's a hidden character. Now let's go to the next cell and open this file in Python. Okay, so we open those two at the operating system level. Now let's check it out in Python. So here, where are we? Oh, right, we're right here. Let me comment this out and enter. Boom. Now let's open this file inside of our Python session with the Python open built-in function. So what we did is we did open and then the name of the file, and we assigned it to the variable raw file. Now when we call the raw file, it says open, but it just gives us kind of details of the file. We see that Python and the raw file variable has opened the file, but it has not read the contents in the file into our Python session. It just gives us all this mumbo jumbo. Now, one thing you guys got to note is that at the end of this line, encoding UTF-8, for now think of UTF-8 in reference to Unicode as a Python string. So it's saying this includes a Python string. Now let's do raw file. So that's the name of it, and we're going to press tab, boom, and it's going to give us a bunch of functions, but a method is a function, a bunch of methods for this variable. So what we want to do is do .read, and then we do add the parentheses because it's a method. So the parentheses come after the name of the method. Shift enter, and boom, it shows us the contents of this file in one big string. Because you see the quotation marks right here, one big string, and then right here. Boom, same thing. Excuse me. Now we had save the raw file.read output to the variable in the next line. So we saved it to the variable raw file toString equals raw file.read, and then it codes it as light blue because it's a Python method, and then we're going to call raw file toString right here. Boom. And for some reason, it gives us an empty string. Huh, that is very interesting. Maybe let me comment this out. Shift enter, and boom. Here it does. It reads it because we assign raw file.read. What we had up here, we just assigned that to a function, raw file toString, and it did the same thing. It made it into one giant string, and you know it's one giant string because of the two quotation marks at either end. Now we're gonna see the type, and let me comment all this out. And we're gonna see the type. What is raw file toString? What data type is it? Now, listen, guys. Like, what did I say last cell? I said there's two quotation marks. So the type of it is going to be, you guessed it, a string. It's just one big string. Because notice how the data starts and ends with the quotation marks. That's the giveaway. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to do some string slicing, and we're going to say from 0 to 19. So the first 19 starting at 0, and guess what it's going to give us? It should give us starting for the T at timestamp and then all the way to the 19th character. So I think it should end at heart rate. And that's what it does. Boom. It goes from 0 all the way to 19, does not include 19, and gives us the first 19 characters. And then we're going to have another string slice, and that's going to be from the 20th character to the 49th character. So it should give us 19 characters here. And that should be around over here. It should be a timestamp. It should be one of these timestamps. Boom, and that's exactly what it does. And then we're going to do len raw file, and this is going to show us how big that string is. So it's going to show us the number of characters. Boom. it's one long string, and it has 283 characters in the single string of data because it's just one long string, and that's pretty fascinating. Now, let's use the Python built-in print function to get a clear view of the original tabular format of the CSV data. So the print function is going to make it a lot cleaner, a lot more organized, and let's check it out. Boom, we already have it here. The single string is a table of data again. So it's a table of data, 2 columns, 9 rows. A lot easier to interpret. We got rid of the /n since it's a hidden character. It's a lot cleaner, a lot easier to read. The print function is really a godsend. Now, let's compare the difference. So we got file, raw file 2 strings. So when we just call it, it's one big string, and it includes the hidden characters. But with the print function, it's a lot cleaner, a lot more condensed, and does not include the hidden characters such as /n. Now, let's use the Python string split method to convert the string into a list of strings. Okay, so how we're going to do that is right here. So we assigned it to the variable string to list, and we had the one big string, raw file 2 strings. So that's that one big string right up here, right there. And we're going to split it at the /n. So see where you see /n? It's going to say split it here, so split it here, split it here, split it here. So it's going to split it at each /n and make it its own string. So it's going to split it at /n and make it its own string. So it's going to become a list of strings. And let's check it out. Boom, and that's exactly what it does. See, it's every time there's a /n, it gets rid of the /n and splits it at the /n. So here, /n made its own string, /n made its own string, so now it's a list of strings. And now, let's see the length of it. It's going to be a lot shorter than it originally was. For that raw file 2 string, it was 283 characters. But here, it's only 11 because there's only 11 strings. It made it a list of strings since it split it at the end. And since it's not one big string, it's a collection of strings. So yeah. And then let's see raw file 2 string, and that's 283 because that was one big string, and then this is going to be only 11 because this is a list of strings. So instead of having 283 objects, this only has 11 because there's 11 objects in the list. Now, let's do raw file the string and compare this string index slice to the next list index slice. So here it gives us timestamp 0 to 10, and then string to list shows us the first 10 characters. This list shows us the first 10 items. So the string slice shows us the first 10 characters. This shows us the first 10 items because, like I said, the raw file 2 string is one big list, so it's just going to show us they're all bunched together. So it's just going to throw us the first 10 characters. But the string 2 list is just a collection of strings or a list of strings, and it will show us the first 10 items or first 10 strings in this list. Now, let's compare the slice to the raw file slice. Okay, so here, boom, it's going to give us timestamp because it's saying here, if we go back, it's saying go to 0, so go to the first one, and it goes to the first object. So the first, remember we're indexing at 0, so the first object, the first string in this list, and give us the first 10 characters. So the first 10 characters, and that turned out to be timestamp with the little comma and then a space. Now, let's convert our list of strings to a list of strings. Once again, we'll use the Python string split method. Notice the power of mastering a few basic Python techniques for data science. So, let me comment this out to see what we're working with. Boom. String to list. Make careful note of the comma between the timestamp and heart rate. So there's a comma here, and we want to split it at these commas, not this comma. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a little for loop. So for I in string to list. So in every item in this list, we're going to print each item at the split of the comma. Okay, so shift enter, and boom. Now notice the multiple brackets denoting each list in this newly generated list of strings. So it made its own list for each list. For each string. So each string that used to be together made it its own list. So now that's its own list, that's its own list, that's its own list, that's its own list. Yes, we have converted our list of strings into a list of strings, but we have not saved it to a variable. To do this, let's convert our simple for loop and split method into a simple list comprehension. So here, if you actually think about it, these are just 11 separate lists. These are just 11 separate lists. See, they all have their own lists. So it's a square bracket here, square bracket here, square bracket here, square bracket here. So it's 11 separate lists. This isn't a list of strings. It's just a list. It's just 11 lists compiled on top of each other. It's nothing special. It's not a list of lists. Nothing's nested in each other. It's just a list of strings in order. That's all it is. A list of strings in order. But here we're going to make a list of strings. And we do that by assigning it to a variable with a list comprehension. So I dot split. So we're splitting it at the comma for I in string list tail. And we simply recorded our original for loop and slightly changed the grammar. Boom. And then see right here, you have it ends and starts with the square bracket. So that means it's a list of strings because look, square bracket here, square bracket here. It's a list. And then there's square bracket here, square bracket here. Each of these square brackets correspond with each other. So this list contains lists, and inside of these subset of lists contains strings. So it's a list of strings. I know it sounds confusing, guys, but you guys are going to get the hang of it. And if you ever are confused, you can just play back this video whenever you want, and this video will always be available to you. And also, as you know, and I know I sound like a broken record, but this remote desktop will always be available to you. 24/7 access. You can use it whenever you want. Now, in this notebook, we imported a CSV file as a string and then incrementally converted this long string into two important things. A list of lists using the Python string split method. That method is going to be very important for you in order to organize and manipulate your data. And then the second one was a list of strings using the Python string split method one more time with list comprehension. Now, the key to being able to perform the sequence of steps in this notebook is the imported file needs to process some type of structure to guide you on how to perform your string split methods. You must be able to proactively find the hidden structure in the CSV file. The structural hooks inside of the file were two important things. \n new line codes and the commas separating values on each new line. Now, in the next video, we're going to examine something very, very important, and that's how to import a CSV file into Python by importing a CSV module and utilizing this module's methods. As you will see, using import CSV will be much more effective and efficient than the techniques covered in this notebook. That is exactly why import CSV was developed. However, import CSV will have its shortcomings and limitations. These shortcomings and limitations will be overcome by CSV import techniques used in the Berkeley Data Science Library and most importantly in Pandas. Pandas is the crown jewel of data science. Every data scientist uses it. It's arguably one of the most important data science tools and libraries, and you'll be using it all the time as a data scientist. Now, as always, we need to strengthen what you have learned in this notebook with lots of hands-on practice. And like I said, using our DS4HS remote desktop. Like I said, this desktop is always 24/7 available. It's just one click away. You just click on the link that we sent you, and bada bing, bada boom, you're here. No need to download any additional client software. You just click it, and boom. Use it to the max in order to maximize your data science skill set. Thank you guys so much.